If you're new to lighting, the three-point light setup is a great place to start. Right here, I've got a key light, a fill light, and a hair light all triangulated in this setup to showcase what this can do for lighting a subject or lighting an object. When photographers make the leap to get into lighting, it can often be intimidating. A lot of lights out in the market, a lot of people wondering where to start. Well, a good place to sort of start and figure things out is the three-point light setup. And I'll just quickly give you an introduction as to how that works, how it's set up, and then we can talk about the specifics later on. Over here on my left, I've got what's called the key light. Over here on the right, I've got a fill light. And then behind me, I've got a back or a hair light that will round off the three. So to go through these one by one, the key light is going to be the light that defines the exposure for the scene. So in Hollywood terms, if you think about the way they're going to light a scene, it's often going to be defined by the primary light source in that particular room. Or if they're outdoors, maybe it's the sun. Or if you think about a scene where characters are sitting in front of a large picture window, that outdoor light coming into that picture window might be the defining light or the key light of the scene that sets the exposure. That light might be enhanced by artificial light that we don't see outside the shot, but the main gist of it is that that's the light that's going to define the exposure for the scene, and that's the light that most people are going to notice as the primary light source. To complement that primary light source, we usually have what's called a fill. Now, sometimes the fill is just a softer version of the key on the opposite side of the face, but you notice that this side of my face is a little bit darker than the key side. And often people will start off with what's called a 2-to-1 lighting ratio, where you just have the fill light at half the intensity of the key light. And that's a good place to start to sort of get the idea of a three-point light setup. But the main goal of a fill light is to simply fill in those shadows that are created by the key light. And we'll take a look at how extreme those shadows can be in just a moment. But not to fill it in so much that we are flattening out the light and creating a what's called a sort of a high key or a flat lighting look. Now, to round off the picture, we've got the hair light behind me to give a nice accent or rim light around the back of the source of the subject. That might be the actor's head, it might be an object, but the main goal in all of this is to create a sense of three-dimensional shape to that object, to create a sense of visual interest that goes beyond the flat lighting look that we might set up with, say, a simple flash on the camera aimed right at the subject with nothing else to round it off and to accent the light. So let's take a look at the three-point light setup, light by light, so we can understand what each individual light brings to the overall picture. I'm going to start off by turning on my key light. The key light is the light in the scene that defines the overall exposure, and it's usually the brightest light in the setup. And you can see right away when I turn that on, I get a very dark, direct shadow on the right side of my face. That creates a very moody, dramatic look, which might be appropriate for some situations, but in most cases, people are going to want to fill in this side of the face and fill in that shadow with a little bit of light at least. So let's turn on the fill light over here on the right side, and now you can see I've got a 2-to-1 light ratio set up. That means that my fill light is half as intense as my key light, and therefore I keep some of the shadow on the right side, but at the same time, hopefully I've got a little bit of that drama left, a little bit of visual interest created by those shadows, but it may not be quite as flattering to the subject. In other words, it might accent some shadows, make the subject look a little bit older. Maybe it just doesn't flatter their particular facial features in the way that we'd like. So the even light setup, where we bring up the fill light, is another option. And so if we go to a 1-to-1 light ratio by intensifying our fill light over here, we can then fill in those shadows even more and create a flatter lighting look. And by flattening out that light, getting rid of those shadows completely, hopefully, we can then create a more flattering appearance and hopefully a more complimentary one for a male or female host or for an actor or actress. And you can even take that a step further if you wanted to fill it in from below. But the even light setup here created by the key and the fill should do the job. Now, if we turn both of these off and we have only the third light in this setup, which is our hair light or our edge light, we can see the drama created by this light alone. You can see my face is probably dark at this point, but I've got this rim of light going on my shoulders, the back of my head, and my hair. And you can see what that brings to the picture now with these lights turned off. When this light is added, you're basically going to get a nice bit of separation from the background so that hopefully your subject's going to pop a little bit more, as well as add some drama, some visual interest. But it's a very practical, very useful light to have in any situation, whether it's even on your front two lights or whether you've still got a little bit of that drama. So now when I add these lights back on, get them both involved. Here's my fill, here's my key, here's my hair light or my edge light. Now you can see what they all bring to the picture. So hopefully at this point we've got now our full complete 3-point light setup. Every light is performing its function, and we've got what we wanted out of it, and we've accomplished our goal. All right, just because we have 3 lights doesn't mean we have to use them all. Here I've turned off my fill light completely, and we're just using our edge light, hair light, and using our key light to create a little bit of drama here. It's not quite the same light setup we had earlier when we just turned them on one by one, but if you just use a couple lights, change the position of lights, the 3-point light setup is really just meant as a starting point for you to jump off and do your own thing with it for whatever the scene may call for. And you'll notice that this light in particular kind of gives us that old vintage film noir look from the 40s and 50s, that beautiful use of shadows that they had in black and white photography back then, and that sense of drama and mystery that was gained from that use of shadow and playful use of light and the splashiness of the light. It really creates a look unto of itself. And that's just one example of the drama and the fun that you can have with this 3-point light setup when you start mixing and matching setups. So enjoy, have fun with it.